So this video goes along with the notes continued from solving trig functions. If you want to follow on the video, it's on Canvas. I'm going to go through quickly a review of how to solve. There's basically three kinds of equations to solve. To solve the first equation, you would multiply both sides by 40, and you get x equals 40 times the sine of 40. Make sure you're in degrees. The second equation, the shortcut to solve, is to switch the x and the sine of 40. So it'd be 40 divided by sine of 40. Make sure your calculator is in degrees. And the last one, we're finding the angle. So I need to do second sine or inverse sine of 12/17. And so the only time you're doing this is when you're finding an angle. So second sine of 12/17, this would be 44.9 degrees. So that tells you how to find the angle. Okay, so the word problems. We have a couple things. A lot of times they have to do with heights and angles of elevation. This is a key point right here. Angle of elevation is this angle right here. And sometimes they're going to give you what's called the angle of depression. It is the same as the angle of elevation. So when they give you an angle, it's always this little corner. They never give you that angle. That would be called the angle of death. And so what you do is you find your angle you're looking at, and you relate the two sides to that. So this is the opposite side, and this is the adjacent side. So if I have OA, that is TOA, tangent. So the tangent of 52 is the opposite, which is H, over the adjacent. So for this one, I multiply both sides by 12.4 to solve it. So the 12.4s cancel out. 12.4 times tan of 52 is 15.87, so 15.9. Okay. Talked about this. They're never going to give you that angle. Don't ever write an angle there. That is not the angle of depression. The angle of depression and the angle of elevation are the same. That's what they're going to give you. They're going to give you that one, or they're going to give you that one. Okay, so find the height of a flagpole which casts a shadow of 9.32 when the sun makes an angle of 63 degrees to the horizontal. Okay, and I know the sun is up high and you want to put the 63 up high, but you always put it right there. So it's always this bottom angle of elevation. That's the horizontal. And the height of the flagpole we're trying to find, and the shadow is 9.32. Pretty common to have tangent. This is opposite. This is adjacent. Tangent of 63 equals opposite over adjacent. So to solve, you're going to multiply 9.32 times the tan of 63. So I do that on my calculator. 18.3. The height is 18.3 meters. The hill is inclined at 18 degrees to the horizontal. So your horizontal is the bottom. The hill is inclined at 18 degrees. My height above sea level, if I walk 1.2 kilometers up the hill, so I'm walking this way, my height is there. Above sea level is always vertical height, also called altitude. And then it says, how far have I walked up the hill if I'm 500 meters above sea level? So this is part A. For part B, we'd have a similar triangle. Still the same measure here. Only this time they say we're giving us this, and they want to know how far we have walked. Okay, so to solve the first one, I look at my two sides. How are they in relation to our reference angle? Well, this is opposite, and this is hypotenuse. So OH, so katoa. So sine of 18 equals H over 1.2. This is the easy one to solve. You take 1.2 times sine of 18, and you get 0.371. And you might be saying, why is that number so small? That is kilometers. Okay, so This could have a sneaky conversion factor in it. 371 meters would be that amount, because this is really 1,200 kilometers. For the second one, how far have I walked? This is in meters, so we're going to have to keep that in mind. But again, I have opposite and hypotenuse, so it's sine again. Sine of 18 equals opposite over hypotenuse. So this one is the variable's in the denominator, so I call it a switcher. So these switch. 500 over sine of 18. You get 1,618. So if we're doing 3 sig figs, that's 1,620 meters. So it doesn't ask you any units, but if it's an IB application, that probably would have some units involved. So as long as you put 1,620 meters, you're fine, or 1.62 kilometers. A train must climb a constant gradient, it's a constant slope, 5.5 meters for every 200 meters of track. Now this one is kind of worded weirdly, because gradient could be rise over run, but we're climbing 5.5 for every 200 meters of track. This is the train right here. Okay, so that's not really slope. Slope would be run and rise if they talked about it. And so I just check, make sure my units are the same. They're both in meters. So let's find the angle of incline. Again, you're always going to be finding this angle. That's theta. You're not gonna find, there's no name for that angle, so they wouldn't even know how to say that. So I look at my two sides. This side is opposite, and this side is hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse is sine. Sine of theta equals 5.5 over 200. I'm finding an angle. So to find an angle and solve it, I have to do second sine, or inverse sine, sometimes called arc sine. 5.5 divided by 200. And that angle theta would be 1.58 degrees. It seems really small. My picture's not to scale, and that 5.5 is really tiny. Trains can't go past like a 3 or 4% grade, otherwise the friction is not enough for them to stay on the tracks and they'll slide backwards. Sarah measures the angle of elevation from the top of a tree. I'll make a nice tree. As 23.6 degrees from a point which is 250 meters from its base. So measuring there, they give you the angle of elevation, so that goes right here. Even though the tree's up top, there's our angle of elevation. Okay, it's 250 meters from the base of the tree. This is our point. It says, assuming the ground to be horizontal, find the height of the tree. So find the relationship to our angle. That's the opposite, and that's the adjacent. So that would be tangent. Tangent of 23.6 equals opposite over adjacent. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 250 to get my answer. So 250 times tan of 23.6. 109.222, so basically 109. Okay, so now it's going to jump around. You're going to work on the other problems here. The ones that are a little tricky would be anything, I got closed captioning on, anything that is an angle of depression. So I didn't do any of those problems. I'm going to put one on here since it's recording my words right now. This new touchscreen, super fancy. Hopefully they're all proper for school. So if it said angle, if this would have said angle of depression, looking down, so like if you have a bird up in the sky, looking down on a human taking a nap, and they said the angle of depression is 35 degrees, that is the same as the angle of elevation.